Which brings us, of course, now to the actual detail of some of the key elements of drama. Now, focus is a word you're going to hear me use a lot during the next 2 years and next couple of years, however long you choose to do drama, hopefully all the way through to year 12. Focus is the key to successful theatre. It is the way in which we make theatre work and make it interesting and engaging. You can see there's 2 points of focus, as it says. The first point, performance focus, used to create and sustain concentration and belief. Now, that's only a very, very short sentence there. That doesn't cover the multitude of things that we need to cover in that area. Most importantly, we're dealing with a character's motivation, desires, wants, background, what Stanislavski referred to, and we'll study him later, the given circumstances of the character. Who, what, where, why, who are you, what are you after, what are you doing, what's come before the play, what's going to happen during the play, all these little things. And your character, therefore, has goals. And those goals can be minute. They can be just, I just want that pen, and so you're motivated to move toward a table where a pen is. Or, I want something bigger than that. I want love, I want happiness, I want sustainability, whatever your character is after. That is a very, very big deal in that way. Now, that area of focus we do a lot of work on, a lot of workshop stuff on focus, particularly when it comes to you motivating your own characters that you write. The second refers to where the action is directed. Okay, dramatic situation can be planned to help frame the action and be created by attention to space, motifs, props, gestures, eye contact, language, voice. As the drama progresses, a sharp focus must be maintained, otherwise the action will become lost and blurred and direction lost. Now, what that means is you're maintaining the focus of the show. You know where the show's going. You know where the play's going. It's not all over the place. Everyone has the same goal when it comes to the way in which the play works. So focus, very, very, very big deal. Most people will tell you that, of course, conflict drives all drama, but we prefer to call it tension. Because conflict is a singular thing. Conflict is just, a character's internal conflict, external conflicts with each other, and therefore we have action. You must have argument to have action. That photo there kind of suggests that concept, but tension is broader than that, and we prefer to use the word tension for that reason. It drives all drama. It creates a powerful and complex form of energy on stage, which in turn generates a level of excitement for the audience. You can see there are 4 ways of intensifying dramatic tension: task, relationship, surprise, and mystery. And if you think about those in a detailed way, you can imagine pretty much any story you know, any film you've seen, any play you've seen, has characters going through those particular things. Now, tension, say, in mystery or surprise or even task, does not necessarily mean conflict. So you see what I mean. Attention can be in the will they, won't they? Will they succeed? Won't they succeed? Will they be able to complete the goal? Or won't they? And great films that show that are ones that have, say, often heist films, when they're trying to rob a bank and things like that, and will it succeed or will they get caught? There's tension in that. There's not much conflict. So use the word tension at all times. It is very important that it is maintained throughout, that you actually bring that through and out of the focus. The goal should have tension. Therefore, every goal should have an obstacle. Okay? You should have a difficulty in achieving the goal. Otherwise, the drama is rather dull. There should be some kind of pursuit for that character, some way in which they're able to get what they need through trial and tribulation. That is theatre. Once we have all those things, we must also ground the work. We must give the audience a time frame, a place, and a situation. We must allow the audience to say, this is a familiar or this is an alien environment, and I get that. I'm with that. So time, of course, is the period in which the dramatic action can occur. So you can see by that photo that the time of which this action is occurring is causing the actors to behave, move, and be truthful in a certain way. The costume affects that, and the era affects that. You can also see that there is a focus, an eye focus there going on as well. We imagine that these two are at the beginning of or at the part of some type of relationship, whatever it will be. It can remain constant, as you know, or it can shift place. Obviously, that's important. Sometimes no place is as good as any place. When we get into our postmodern theatre, that is, no place gets to there. Situation, of course, are the circumstances the characters find themselves in and the relationships of that situation. So that is, the old drama game of we're playing stuck in a lift, and immediately you're given the situation. 5 people stuck in a lift, therefore crisis, boom, we're away. That's straight improvisational techniques. Eventually, we get to more complicated sort of ideas of what a situation might be. But that's really important. So there are big things that get the play going. And then once we're there, all these other elements are the second part of it that make it interesting. So we go back to that initial sentence and we have space, structure, language, sound, movement, rhythm, and moment. And each of those is an element into itself, but you group them together through the use of all of those different things. So let's look at them very, very quickly. Space. Here we have a proscenium arch theatre. Space is very important. It not only is the stage or performance space, but spatial design, but also the awareness of the body in relation to other performance and spatial design. So it's the way in which the space transforms the theatre. Now, the type of theatre is performed on that type of stage, but as you know, there are many different types of stage and many different ways of positioning yourselves to the audience and to other characters on that stage. Closeness evokes a sort of sense of relationship. Distance does the same. That's pretty straightforward. Structure, of course, is something we get used to when we're doing narrative in English. Here is a 5-act structure of basically Shakespeare's work, the complication effect, leading to a crisis and a climactic period, and then the denouement down here after the falling action, rising action, falling action. That's a linear plot line. As you see here, the plot line carries dramatic action forward. They can be linear, but of course there's non-linear ones. There's ones that work in circles or cyclical plot lines. There's ones that frame, there's a beginning and an end, all that kind of stuff. And the structure is, of course, how you get from one to the next to the next. Of course, plays have lines, they have words, they have language. So the type of language that's there is very important. That's a manifestation of character as well, how they speak, and the type of time, place, situation. You can see there we've got Romeo and Juliet played into a big wordle. So in drama, ideas, feelings and needs are expressed through verbal and non-verbal language, okay? Just remember that no piece of dialogue should ever be wasted. I always use the line that dialogue, if you're doing it in English, dialogue is really used as a weapon. It's used as a way of revealing something for the character or producing conflict or tension. And the same goes for when you're creating lines in a play. Each line, you've only got, say, 8 to 12 minutes if you're doing a play build, needs to be complete and needs to be ready to actually be something that the audience go, oh, that's an amazing thing to say. Sound's very important. It's important to make sure that you're playing with sound. If you're doing a musical, that's a very, very big deal because often there is music playing underneath the dialogue. You can create sound effects and it establishes an atmosphere. Here you've got people working on instruments and getting sounds right. The sound, of course, also relates to the space because sound in different spaces will transfer in a different way. Different theatres have different ways of actually making sound disappear, reappear. It depends on the quality of the room that you're working in. And realistic sound effects, music, soundscapes are interesting, body percussion. A soundscape's fascinating. You can use 12, 13 people to create different sounds, and that creates a different atmosphere. Where you produce the sound's important too, if it comes from behind or in front of the audience. Again, all of this can be expanded on during lessons. Movement's actually quite important because the way in which we move on a stage gives a lot of meaning to the audience, and unfortunately, when we're learning the craft, we tend to move incorrectly or we move non-naturally. That is, we wander about, we show our nerves through our movement. Great acting comes from controlling the body, controlling every part of the body, from the small toe to the end of the tips of the fingers. Physical theatre and physicalization is pretty important. And that's where Meyerhold, the study of Meyerhold, comes in, and we'll talk about that. But movement is key. How you move toward another character, the way you walk, the way you stand. And so we spend a lot of time rehearsing that and getting that right because it's your movements that will really tell the markers that you're doing a good job with your stagecraft. As you know, plays have a certain type of rhythm. There's the wonderful late Alan Rickman there. Rhythm is very, very important to the manipulation, as you see, of timing, pace, and tempo. Rhythms are manipulated according to where the focuses are. So you have what we call beats. You might see that in a play. It has the word beat written in there. In Shakespeare, of course, his rhythm was that pentameter, that 10-beat works. That gives you the right amount of time for pause, the right amount of time for speech, the speed of the speech, the way in which you're creating a sort of meaning through the way you're speaking. There's a rhythm to the way I'm speaking right now, and those sorts of things are taken into account. The patterns of the performance and the speed of it and the changeover and all that sort of stuff creates audience engagement. Now here we have moment, very famous moment where Romeo meets Juliet, and everyone is aware that that's a key moment in theatre. Moments in drama are fundamental to the pacing of dramatic action. The tempo, which refers to the management of time in a broad sense, is often punctuated by moment. Moment to moment is called timing. So there are moments in your play. You know you're hitting moment to moment to moment, and you've got to get to each one. You know the difference in the place, and so therefore you change the pace, you change the rhythm, you manage that punctuation of time. And so it works that you can say, I could do this play, really a really good way to do it is I could do this play as a series of frozen moments. 10 frozen moments to do my play, and that's really a great way of engaging with the group devised stuff. So now we move on to the evocation. We've got atmosphere. This is what all that stuff, it works to evoke something, and we evoke firstly an atmosphere, which is a feeling or mood that's created through dramatic action, closely linked to tension, as you see, and as the drama builds, so does the mood and therefore the atmosphere. So we get a sense of what's going on in this play. We feel it. And that's the first thing that should happen. Should have a visceral reaction to theatre. And that's a gut feeling. You know, I feel something in the gut. Cerebral reaction comes later. It's thinking. You can see a play and say, oh, it had this to say and that to say about politics or relationships or whatever it was. But initially there's a punch in the gut. There's like, oh, I feel something. And it's the atmosphere that you are able to create that gives the audience that moment. Symbol, and I've got symbolism here in the costuming. Symbol helps you understand the play. You get things that are expressed in the play. You understand that the characters are representational, that the roles, the characters, everything represents a type of reality. The famous line from Hamlet is, you know, hold a mirror up to nature. But in fact, in that play, Shakespeare had Hamlet suggest that that's not enough. When he said the play's the thing that captures the conscience of the king, captures us, it did, but then it didn't quite work. It needed something more. So theatre had to develop and drive and build and improve. And the way in which we are able to actually express ourselves becomes very complicated. Everything leads to the symbolism of something. And now I read a play and I say, I'll see a play and I go, oh, I feel this way because I've lived a certain life. You might see something differently because you've lived an entirely different life to me. And so your cultural baggage, your essence of who you are, can change, and symbolism can't be pinned down necessarily. People will see the symbol of a school uniform in a different way. You're definitely going to see the symbol of a school uniform in a different way to someone at Bathurst High School, for instance. So that sort of thing is really, really important. You know that you are working with a type of universality. And it all leads to two particular things. Dramatic meaning. Dramatic meaning is created through the manipulation of those elements of drama, which we talked about. And what that does is the audience starts to understand what's happening here, and you create what's called an actor-audience relationship. You can feel that relationship happening. The audience are going, I see what you're doing with this. I get this, okay? And of course, that very importantly leads to probably the most important thing. That's audience engagement. That the audience, not just that they're listening or they're laughing at the right moment or they're clapping, but they're actually transforming. They're actually having that moment of catharsis of saying this was worth coming to see. The purpose of performance impacts on the type of audience engagement, creates from laughter to alienation, and makes clearer the dramatic meaning. The audience must be with you on the journey at all times. Anyway, they're the elements of drama. They underpin everything we do in theatre, in drama over the next couple of years. Keep them very close to you at all times.